Shmi Skywalker's death at the hands of the Tusken Raiders was the catalyst for Anakin's descent down the dark path. It left him with heightened fear, burdened with guilt and sadness. He vowed to never experience this again, but this only left him a slave to his emotions and easily manipulatable. But what if Anakin saved his mother? Shortly after Anakin is assigned to protect the Senator of Naboo, he begins having nightmares of his mother dying. Some Jedi were known to have premonitions of the future, and with Anakin's immense strength in the Force, he was particularly prone to them. He experiences the dreams for days, and enough is enough. With Padme by his side, they rush to Tatooine to determine the fate of his mother. They find the Lars farm, where Klieg, Shmi's husband, explains how his mother was taken away by the Tuskens weeks ago, and no one's been able to find her. Anakin gets up quickly. He has to go search for himself. He sets off immediately. He can sense his mother through the Force. Although faint, she's still alive. He hones in on her location and finds her in the Tusken Raiders camp. He embraces his mother, who recognizes him instantly. He can feel her clutching to life by strings, so knows he doesn't have much time, and he rushes them out of there back to the Lars farm. Anakin doesn't kill the Tuskens because he doesn't feel the rage and surge for revenge that he did when she died. He takes her back to her husband, where she's nurtured back to good health. Anakin watches his mother and sees she's happy there with her new family. After Anakin originally left, he thought his mother would be sad and depressed. He always felt bad for leaving her as a slave, and this clouded his thoughts during his early life as a Jedi. But he was wrong. She's happy, living the life she always wanted, and himself, Anakin, is living the life his mother always wanted him to live. It couldn't have turned out better. After a few days, Padme and Anakin say their goodbyes as they head off to Geonosis. Anakin can finally leave her behind, not only physically, but mentally, as he's content with the life she's living. This was a pivotal moment for Anakin. Killing the Tusken Raiders was his first step down the dark path. His mother's death left him eclipsed by fear, the fear that he wouldn't be able to save the ones he cared about, Padme, Obi-Wan. However, now he's far more confident in his ability and isn't a slave to his emotions. The events on Geonosis play out as they did in the original timeline. They manage to save Obi-Wan, but the Clone War begins. However, there's a silver lining. Padme and Anakin get married on Naboo, and the Skywalker family begins. Anakin experiencing his mother's death shaped him during the Clone War in the original timeline. It left him riddled with guilt and regret that he could not save her. After this, he vowed to never feel like that again, which ultimately began his quest down the dark path as he became a slave to his emotions, constantly surrounded by fear. But now, his mother is alive and he doesn't feel any guilt. She's living a happy life. He's able to finally begin to forget about her, let her drift from his mind and focus on his Jedi teachings, and ultimately his destiny. Anakin was no longer a slave to his emotions. He could give Jedi training his complete attention. He began to comprehend the depths of the Jedi philosophy, focusing on his emotional discipline and honing his already remarkable skills. With his undivided attention and skill, his name began to echo throughout the stars. His reputation as a skilled Jedi Knight spread across the galaxy, yet his heart remained humble. He did not crave attention like he did in the original timeline, but sought peace and justice against disenfranchised worlds. His feats became legendary, not merely for their grandeur, but for the spirit of compassion and humility with which they were carried out. The perception of Anakin Skywalker began to change within the Jedi Order. In his early days of training, he was known to be a bratty teenager, struggling to control his emotions and getting frustrated easily. But it's like a switch has been flipped. He has complete emotional control with a deep commitment to peace, justice, and selfless service. But he was also wise, showing the ability to act with empathy, foresight, and adaptability in the face of the most daunting challenges. Some would say the role model Jedi, and many in the Order began to see him as the chosen one. The biggest relationship change for Anakin was with Mace Windu. In the original timeline, Windu didn't trust Anakin at all to his late start in Jedi training and his strong emotional attachments. However, in this timeline, Windu can sense that the boy's late start to training has not hindered him at all. He has control over his emotions, not the other way round. He cares deeply, yes, but through empathy and compassion, exactly how a Jedi should. Windu saw vast potential in the young Skywalker, and Anakin greatly admired Windu's unparalleled mastery of the Force and unwavering dedication to the Jedi Order. Their bond grew, and friendship developed. The stoic Windu, known for his stern demeanor, often found his sternness melting away in the warmth of Anakin's enthusiasm and natural charisma. Anakin was able to see past Windu as a figure of authority, but also someone of empathy and understanding. This deep bond between them forged a strong alliance, and Windu viewed Anakin as the chosen one and future of the Jedi Order. The Clone War raged on, the Republic battling the Separatist forces in a desperate struggle for survival. It was a hard-fought war, with losses on both sides, but Anakin remained a beacon of hope. He led his clone battalions with a tactical brilliance and moral strength that inspired those around him, embodying the true essence of a Jedi. He fought beside his master, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Padawan, Ahsoka Tano, and together paved the way for Jedi victory. In the midst of the war, Anakin's bond with his wife, Padme Amidala, deepened. Despite the Jedi Code's restrictions on attachments, they managed to sustain their relationship, drawing strength from one another. Even though Anakin cared deeply for his wife, he didn't let this attachment to her control him. He wasn't riddled by fear, loss and hatred, but love, happiness and compassion. Even though his attachment, he was able to live and strive by the Jedi Code. This was very intriguing to Anakin. The Jedi Code forbade all attachments, labeling them as a direct breach of Jedi values. However, through Anakin's attachment, he was able to follow the Jedi Code perfectly. This got him thinking. He was able to master his emotions and not let his attachments control him. If only this was taught in Jedi training. Jedi are taught to not let their emotions control them, but the only way to properly learn this is through having an attachment. But if a Jedi isn't allowed that, then they can never truly master their emotions. To learn, you must fail, and to fail, you must experience and try. Anakin kept these thoughts in the back of his mind, and knew there would be a time to express his opinion in the future. Meanwhile, Chancellor Palpatine observed Anakin's rise with keen interest. The young Jedi's power was unlike anything he had seen before. He was almost afraid of it. When he looks at the boy, he is not 100% certain that he could defeat him. He needs his power for himself. It could be a valuable asset. But his attempts to seduce Anakin in the dark side of the Force have failed repeatedly. Anakin's commitment to the Jedi and light side of the Force was too strong. They remained close, and he was still Anakin's mentor, but Palpatine had an ace up his sleeve. Towards the end of the war, Palpatine begins planting dreams of Padme dying in childbirth, days after Anakin returns from killing Count Dooku and finding out about the pregnancy. Similar dreams in which he placed in Maul's mind to grow his power in the darkness. Anakin begins to panic, as anyone would seeing their wife die, and Palpatine senses this. He's been able to crack the shell of the Chosen One. Anakin and Palpatine meet a few times over the next few days, Palpatine trying to crack the shell even more, mentioning his former master, Darth Plagueis, in an attempt to seduce Anakin to the dark side of the Force. Anakin tries weighing up his options. What he really wants is access to the Jedi Archive's restricted section to learn about the power to cheat death. However, there's no way the Council would allow it without him being a master. Palpatine asks Anakin what's troubling him, who casually mentions how he wants access to the Jedi Archive's restricted section to learn. Palpatine, an old friend of Anakin, offers to do him a favor by making him his representative on the Jedi Council, ultimately leading him to become a master and gaining access to the archives. Anakin thinks about this deeply, but comes to the conclusion there is no way they would make him a master, and turns Palpatine down. In this timeline, Anakin isn't so power hungry and wants to achieve his goals by his own merits, and not be given them by others. Anakin heads home that night and concludes that there isn't a power to save Padme from death except the power he has already achieved. If Padme really faces death, then he will save her himself, not with some rare dark side technique or hidden knowledge in the archives. Anakin was confident in his ability, and his resolve didn't waver. There's also the possibility that his dreams don't come true, like his mother years ago. In the days coming up to her birth, Palpatine begins giving Anakin dreams multiple times a day, thinking this will corrupt him and cause him immense turmoil, but his resolve doesn't waver. He attributes his visions to the compassion and love he feels for his wife, but also thinks it may be a random test of the dark side that all Jedi face at some point, and he will conquer it. Palpatine thinks seeing his wife die must have Anakin in complete fear and turmoil, so decides it's time to reveal himself as a Sith Lord and the answer to all of Anakin's problems. Anakin tells Palpatine he will consider his offer, but he's lying. The Clone War, corrupt Senate, the galaxy in agony, his recent dreams all stink of the dark side. And now Palpatine is prescribing the dark side to fix all of his problems? He doesn't buy it. He wants to avoid confrontation now, so he can come back with more masters, so tells Palpatine he'll consider his offer when he really isn't. He rushes to Master Windu straight away and reports the news. Windu is shocked, but remains strong and knows what needs to be done. Windu gathers Master Fisto, Kolar, Tin, and also allows Anakin to join them in their arrest. They approach the Chancellor, Windu leading the march. Palpatine looks upon Anakin and realizes his attempts have failed. The boy is out of his reach, so he must be disposed of. He won't hold back like he did in the original timeline, and he'll use his complete strength. Sidious moves as a blur, Aegon Kolar falling first, followed closely by Saisi Tin. The remaining three clash with Sidious, their blades a blur of verdant light, countering the ruthless red of Sidious's weapon. He equips a second saber, and with one stroke, cuts off Fisto's left tentacle and kicks him back, leaving him heavily injured. Fisto was compromised, focusing a lot of force energy on his wounds, causing Palpatine to advance. Windu had to cover Fisto, not wanting to lose another master, but Sidious baited him in and unleashed a flurry of blows at Windu, who manages to dodge but is left off balance. Sidious blasts him with the Force, causing him to bang his head and momentarily lose consciousness. Fisto attempts to make the most of the situation and takes a stab at Palpatine, but his strength is too much and sends Fisto flying back when their blades crash, and he electrocutes the Nutulian master. Sidious stops and turns to face Anakin, the Chosen One. He can tell Palpatine has been preparing for this fight for years, maybe even decades. He knew exactly how it would play out. Alone, Anakin stood before Palpatine, their shared history lingering in the air between them. Years of friendship and good times were nothing but lies. In a swift move, Anakin launches himself towards the Sith, their blades clashing in an explosion of sparks, the sound echoing throughout the chamber. Sidious, drawing on decades of training, counters the young Jedi's every move with practiced precision, but Anakin's just as quick, his natural affinity for the Force giving him the edge. Sidious suddenly disengaged and launched a devastating wave of Force lightning at Anakin, but he was ready. The Chosen One's unique bond with the Force allowed him to not just deflect the energy with his lightsaber, but also absorb it, channeling it into his own Force energy. Anakin moves with a finer grace, his power stronger than it was before, his movements a blur of precision and speed. Sidious, taken aback by the raw power of the Chosen One, was forced to take a step back, his confidence wavering for the first time. In a desperate move, Sidious lashed out with the Force, trying to push Anakin back, but he stood his ground, drawing upon his unparalleled connection to the Force to create a shield around him. The energy of the Sith Lord's attack rebounded, throwing Sidious off balance. Seizing the opportunity, Anakin calls upon a new technique, Force Time Dilation, a rare and powerful skill, allowing Anakin to manipulate the perception of time around him, giving him the ability to perform actions at incredible high speeds. His lightsaber, guided by the Force, cuts through the air in a swift, decisive arc, and in one fluid move, cuts across Sidious's chest and neck, ending the Sith Lord. Anakin rushes over to his wounded comrades, Fisto and Windu. His victory was bittersweet, shadowed by the price they had paid, but they had triumphed over the dark, and the Chosen One had fulfilled his destiny, securing the future of the Jedi Order and the galaxy. The Senate was informed of Palpatine's death, and after presenting irrefutable evidence that Palpatine was in control of both sides of the war, the Jedi were exempt from any charges and thanked for their service to the galaxy. Padme gives birth days later to the twins, Luke and Leia, and the Skywalker family begins. Anakin is forced to come clean to the council about his family, who are shocked, but they allow Anakin to remain in the Jedi Order. He was the Chosen One, but Anakin wanted to make changes within the Order. He explains his philosophy to the council. Even though he had strong attachments, he was able to master his emotions and completely follow the Jedi code. He tries to emphasize how not having attachments is actually a flaw of the Jedi. That without having attachments, you can't truly master your emotions and have complete control. Yes, attachments open you to feelings of jealousy and fear, which is why it's important to train yourself to become resistant to those emotions through having attachments. He concludes by saying this was the way of the Jedi of old. Many of them had families and attachments, but this key part of Jedi tradition has been lost. Many of the council are convinced, including Anakin's close friend Mace Windu. After heavy convincing, Anakin managed to get Ahsoka to return to the Order, and after she passed her Jedi trials, Anakin was promoted to the rank of Master and given a seat on the council. From here, he could make actual change within the Jedi Order, revert them back to their old ways, similar to the ideology of his first master, Qui-Gon Jinn. Anakin was happy. He'd fulfilled his role as the Chosen One. His mother was living the life she always wanted. And alongside his friends, his family, he was able to lead the galaxy into a bright and prosperous future. If you enjoyed this video, you have to watch What If I Wrote Tales of the Sith or What If Anakin Never Met Padme. If you want to support the channel, considering becoming a member for $1 a month where you get to see new video ideas and thumbnails before everyone else. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all on the weekend.